Hey everyone, it's Rod with Power Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, Crypto Assets, and Interviews. It's Wednesday, June 21st. Hope you're well, and happy hump day. In this video, we're going to give an update with regards to safe banking. Chuck Schumer is confident that the MJ banking bill will pass. And I know what you're thinking. We've heard this many times before and we've been let down. So take it with a grain of salt, but I do agree. I think it has a better chance now of passing than ever before. And the fact that it keeps coming up again and again for votes and keeps coming up in Congress is a good thing in my opinion. It's eventually going to get over the finish line. But before we get to it, make sure to smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. Getting very close to that 500,000 view mark on the channel. So first and foremost, thank you very much to the community. I really do appreciate the support. It definitely wasn't easy and really doesn't go unnoticed. I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. But moving on, I did a video. This was yesterday actually on rescheduling versus safe banking, and I talk about the possibility of whether or not we could see both this year. And then I talk about what would happen if both of those pass, and then I talk about how even depending on what HHS comes back with, rescheduling may solve it all in one sweeping motion. So if you haven't seen that video, I highly encourage you to check that out. Also posted a video on Tilray Brands becoming an absolute powerhouse and the connection to Peter Thiel, who's invested in Facebook and LinkedIn, Airbnb, SpaceX, also Palantir, and then co-founder of PayPal. And if you haven't seen that, I highly encourage you to check that out. That's definitely a banger video and an absolute must watch. But here's the article from MJ Moment. Schumer is confident MJ banking bill will pass this session, according to MJ entrepreneur who spoke with the majority leader. So Chuck Schumer is confident Congress will pass a bipartisan MJ banking bill this session, and other Democratic senators also echoed that point, according to MJ industry entrepreneur who spoke with the lawmakers recently. After speaking at an event focused on higher education last week, Schumer was approached by CEO of Colorado-based MJ company Simply Pure, Wanda James, who became the first black woman in the country to own a licensed MJ dispensary in 2009. In a phone interview on Tuesday, James told MJ Moment that she spoke with the majority leader and the Secure and Fair Enforcement Act, Safe Banking Act, expressing how black entrepreneurs in the industry are broadly supportive of the incremental reform to free up banks and credit unions to work with state-licensed MJ businesses. You can see here, Wanda L. James tweeted, "Democrats, let's get safe banking done. Senator Schumer, small business owners in MJ who happen to be black need you and your team to get this done. We are counting on you." Schumer appeared confident that the MJ bill would receive an initial hearing in the Senate Banking Committee last month, will advance and be enacted this year, according to James, who emphasized that the brief chat with Majority Leader was not a formal sit-down with him and his staff. Schumer noted in the discussion that there's enough Republican support in the Senate to move safe banking to the House, where it's passed in some form 7 times in recent years. From my conversation that I briefly had with Schumer, as well as separate discussions with John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet during the trip to DC, I am of the opinion that our Democratic leadership believes that this is something we can get done, James said. MJ Moment reached out to Schumer's office for comment, but the representative was not immediately available. So hopefully we'll get an update on that soon. Lawmakers, advocates, and stakeholders might have different opinions, but what the final product should look like. Schumer pushing for expungement provisions when it reaches the floor. Certain industry representatives advocating for expansion of overall financial protections, for example. But the sentiment that James heard from key senators was confident that something is achievable. So that's reassuring, even if it means incrementalism first, right? And we're okay with going in increments, right? Just a phase approach, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, just kind of crawl before you walk and walk before you run, so to speak. Another tweet from Wanda L. James spoke with Schumer last night. He feels confident we can get safe banking done. Senator Hick and Senator Bennett felt we will get it done as well. I also had a long conversation with Perlmutter, Perlmutter. He dispelled the negative talking points about this bill. Some equity-focused advocates have taken a skeptical or hostile stance on safe banking, which is expected to receive a committee markup within weeks as a standalone, arguing that it would not be appropriate to pass industry-focused measure ahead of broader focus reforms. I would be thrilled to see more and more movement on this. However, make no mistake, first and foremost, we must get basic banking over the finish line, she said, adding that her and her own personal bank accounts were closed recently due to her involvement in the MJ industry. It had nothing to do with anything except for the fact that I'm a CEO of an MJ business, James said. So another tweet from James here. Okay, Democrats, don't mess this up. Without banking, no business will survive, including POC, biz people already in the industry. Safe banking has 10 Republican votes, which I'll bring up this Dales Report article here in just a moment. But very interesting article nonetheless. While the Safe Banking Act has yet to be scheduled for a committee markup, lawmakers from across the aisle are signaling that the votes are there for passage so long as there are no major contentions or hiccups along the way. Senator Tommy Tuberville said last week that he's a yes on the legislation, for example. He just doubts that Democratic leadership will follow through on their pledge to get the job done this year. And as we know, once the Dems got into office in February 2021, we had that huge run up on hopes of U.S. legalization at the federal level. And, they just haven't come through with their promises. So let's see if they can kind of regain some of that confidence and that loyalty back, because as of right now, we got a lot of upset people in the United States and even here in Canada, myself included being Canadian. As it's currently drafted, the measure would protect banks and credit unions as well as depository institutions from being penalized by federal regulators for working with state licensed MJ businesses. So we'll move through here. So some consumer groups have raised concerns that Section 10 of the bill would inadvertently limit the ability of regulators to take action against people exploiting banking services. So it just goes to I've already covered this in another video, but if you want to see this whole video, article, I encourage you to go check that out. But in effort of time, I'm going to move on. And I did want to bring up this TDR, so the Dales Report article. Safe banking has 10 Republican votes needed for passage, according to MJ Industry Insider. So the issue of the MJ banking has been a pressing concern of the MJ industry for the past several years. Passed 7 times and on a bipartisan basis in the House of Representatives, the Safe Banking Act has never quite had enough support to make it through to the president's desk. Will this be different? And one insider thinks that it very much could be. According to new intel from Polaris Capital Group, co-founding President Rob Sechrist, a prominent member of the Senate Banking Committee, the group currently studying safe banking legislation and which held a hearing in May, has the 10 votes needed to pass a potential Senate floor vote. Our latest Trade to Black podcast, Mr. Sechrist, stated that he recently met with Senator Steve Daines, a member of the Senate Banking Committee and co-sponsor of the Safe Banking Act. While the meeting agenda was broad, the issue of safe banking was addressed directly. Straight to the point, it reported that Senator Daines confirmed to me that he does have the 10 votes necessary. So let me repeat that. Senator Daines confirmed to me that he does have the 10 votes necessary for Safe Banking Act passage. And the way he worded it was with a lot more confidence, as he's got more votes than necessary. Assuming a committee markup vote receives majority support sometime over the next few weeks, a floor vote on SAFE would appear increasingly likely. The markup session allows committee members to offer modifications to the bill's language, add or remove provisions, and or make adjustments based on their policy preferences or concerns. According to the Senate Banking Committee Chairman, Sherrod Brown, the committee will mark up safe banking soon. And as we know, I did a video on that about a couple weeks ago saying that we could see a Senate vote in the next 2 to 3 weeks, so realistically any week now. Once the bill reaches the Senate floor, senators can engage in debate discussing its provisions, merits, potential implications, yada, yada, yada. We'll go through this a little bit quicker here. But if the industry insiders are to be believed, safe banking legislation as it currently stands in the committee has enough support to go to the distance. Of course, this assumes that every Democrat and Democrat caucusing senators vote in favor of the legislation on the floor. So 10 Republican votes is key to passing safe banking legislation. The process of requiring 60 votes to pass a bill in the Senate refers to the procedural rule known as the filibuster. The filibuster allows senators to delay a block legislation by speaking for an extended period, effectively preventing a vote on the bill unless a supermajority of 60 senators agree to end the debate and proceed to a final vote. The supermajority requirement in the Senate is confusing to some people because only a simple majority is required to pass legislation in the House. The reason resides in how the nation's founders set up the system, which essentially forced both political parties to work together. That 60-vote threshold was designed to ensure that in order to pass legislation, the majority party needed to obtain some buy-in from the minority. The founders wanted to force a modicum of bipartisan in the legislative branch of government. Once the bill gets a vote on the Senate floor, it requires a simple majority of 51 votes to pass after a debate has ended. However, before it can go to vote, it takes 60 votes to cut off the debate, which is why a 60-vote supermajority is now considered to be de facto minimum for passing legislation in the Senate. So as we know, again, we've got our hopes up time and time again, and nothing really came from this, but I do think that this time is different, and we've got, tons of companies backing it as well. Reform in the U.S., even at the federal level, we got Apple, we've got, Amazon. So at this point, we'll wait and see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But going in it there, let me know what you think in the comments. Always love hearing from you. We'll continue the conversation there. But have a great night. It's Rob with Pow Group. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth, and we'll see you in the next video.